I think the biggest thing to say is there is no wrong time to sell and no wrong time to buy if you do it with a lot of advice and information and a great team behind you. What do I mean by that? It's a great market. Everybody says you must be having so much fun and making so much money. And frankly, this is not my favorite market. I like to do a great job for my client, be it seller or buyer, and it makes it difficult. So what I've brought out and dusted off is something called a tax-deferred 1031 exchange. Now, what does that mean? Because it's in the IRS code, so you know it's going to be
boring. Boring is the word.
They're probably going to have requirements, and you're going to do this, this, and that.
Welcome to the Uncensored Real Estate Podcast, where nothing is off limits. If you're interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate, and you want to learn some of the insider secrets and uncensored truths from the true professionals in and around real estate, you've come to the right place. Now, let's buckle up for the uncensored truth about real estate and join your host, Brian Cardenas.
All right, welcome everybody to the Uncensored Real Estate Podcast, where nothing is off limits. And so we're going to talk about everything related to real estate and things around there. And of course, we need to talk to people who actually know what they're doing. So we brought on our special guest today, Peggy Gascon. She's been a real estate professional for a while. I'll let you decide if you want to tell how long you've been doing this.
Probably not. A couple of decades.
Enough time to know what's going on in the market. So we thought it was really important to bring her on today to learn a little bit more about what's happening. Obviously, this is a crazy, ridiculous market, not one that I've seen before, and I've been doing this for 26 years. And so we want to talk about what's happening and what are people not aware of. And so I'd love to hear from you. What is it that people need to be aware of in the real estate market today that they're probably not aware of?
Thanks, Brian, for putting this together. It's really important. It's things I say to people all day, every day. This is a great opportunity to get it out there a little bit more. I think the biggest thing to say is there is no wrong time to sell and no wrong time to buy if you do it with a lot of advice and information and a great team behind you. What do I mean by that? It's a great market. Everybody says you must be having so much fun and making so much money. And frankly, this is not my favorite market. I like to do a great job for my client, be it seller or buyer, and it makes it difficult. So what I've brought out and dusted off is something called a tax-deferred 1031 exchange. Now, what does that mean? Because it's in the IRS code, so you know it's going to be
boring. Boring is the word.
They're probably going to have requirements, and you're going to do this, this, and that. However, I think there are enough reasons out there. How do you get ahead of this market? This may be an opportunity. This will be specifically for people who actually own investment properties. It's broader than that, but let's just keep it at that for now. Okay. And to say they've owned them for a while and they've depreciated them down to where there's not much left there. The value's gone up so much, they'd really like to reap that and take it somewhere else. Well, if you talk to your CPA, you're going to find out you're going to pay a lot of taxes on that. Everything you've depreciated out over the years, all of the write-offs, they come back, and then this lovely little word called recapture. So recapture means you pay tax on it now. The idea, if you've had a rental property, you are a decent landlord, you know how to work with that. The idea of this whole scenario is with some rules, with some people who know how to do it. And that's not all me. I have to have a lender like yourself who understands how to interface with that. We have to have a facilitator, and there are other professionals. But we have a team put together, a team of professionals. There's an overview as you can sell the one property, and instead of paying taxes, which can be huge, I'm going to give you a personal example here in a minute, you can take that money and you can roll it into a new property, 1, 2, 10, it's open. And not pay those taxes. It's deferred, but it can be deferred with a tax planning situation until the day you pass away and your heirs inherit it. And then all the taxes are, at that point, step up in basis. It's forgiven and no one pays the tax that you've accumulated. And the benefits are huge.
So we actually have the IRS that has a section of code there that allows you to not pay taxes on the gains that you have when you sell real estate. Like, who typically utilizes this? I mean, this seems like something that people who are more affluent, who have a lot more real estate holdings would be using. Is that typically who does this, or is
it's certainly probably where it started.
Okay.
I'd just like to take that and bring it down to nuts and bolts, and how can those of us that play at a lower, and one thing I want to drill down on, it's not pay the taxes is not the scenario. Defer is the word.
Right.
It's not tax forgiven, but you have the ability to use that money that would go to taxes. As I like to say, IRS has given you an interest-free loan. That's what it amounts. It is a loan. It's not a gift, but you get to carry it forward. And I think it would be helpful. You're helping me with this, so you know a little bit about it. I have an investment property that I've owned for 5 years, I think, here in the Valley. It is more than doubled in value. Got a great renter, but now the rents they're not keeping up as much as I'd like. I would like to sell that and change into another property, which we're in the process of doing. So the first thing I do is I call my CPA and I say, how much is it going to cost for us to sell this one property if I don't replace it? And he comes back to me, and on a $625,000 sale, which is not much in this market.
That's almost entry level now.
Exactly. It really is. I mean, we could track how it came up from 100, 200, 300, and it's almost entry level. Nice house, nice location. The tax bill, because I have done multiple of these transactions, would be $165,000.
Oh, man.
I know, no bueno, because this is all my planning for my sons and their family. It's wealth building for inheritance purposes. Yes, you get the income off it along the way. There's planning there, but I have no intention of doing that after, when I can take that money and go into a scenario. Everybody, if you call your CPA, they're likely to say, all I know is that's really complicated and it's for bigger people. I think it started out that way, but it works just fine. So I'm able to take that tax that I've deferred, move it into a new property, and there's no time limit on, I mean, it stays there forever as long as I work with it. Yes, there are rules to follow, but they're not difficult if you've got a good facilitator, which you know, Brandon, we do have that. And a good realtor that understands investments to begin with. I've owned them for 25 years.
Right.
It's a way to get ahead of this market.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if you take $160,000 out of the proceeds of that sale, that puts a big dent in what you could go out and acquire for the next property. So the ability to take that and that deferred taxes and use that for the next one, because there's some rules around what do you have to buy next.
Yes.
When you're exchanging it, and how much you have to do. Can you kind of touch a little bit on those rules?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right, too. Number one thing, does the property qualify for this program? And it is IRS code. It's IRC 1031. That's where the whole thing comes from. This says you can sell and buy like-kind property. So everyone I deal with that's at the starting level says, well, I don't want to buy another house. I want to buy a hotel. The like kind is very broad, first of all. It's anything that's held for business. And so that means if you're a flipper, you're out. You can't do this. You know, if you're a flipper, you're considered a dealer. If you're somebody that buys and sells every 6 months, you're a dealer. So this is for those people who want to use it to build wealth. Yes. Guidelines are you have to first qualify that property. Is it a like kind? If you're renting it or have rented it, it's a like kind. It's best if you'd owned it for a couple of years so you don't get into any scenarios there as far as time frames. So now what we have to do is, first of all, figure what that's going to sell for, what that's going to save you in taxes. I always do both. Check it out. Do I sell or do I buy? I mean, do I sell? Do I do an exchange? And once I come to terms with that, then I go out to the market. What do I want to buy? I can sell the one property and buy two if I want to. I can. A few years ago, I had investments in the West Valley where I would sell two and buy one in Scottsdale for Airbnb. So you have a lot of latitude like that. They both have to be held for business. Okay, so residential rentals definitely qualify. You can buy a condo, sell a condo, buy a house, lots of things. Here's where you get into, there are 4, they call them safe harbors, and there are 4 really important things to remember. Once you've got that part under control and you understand, yes, this qualifies for like kind, and yes, so will this one. Like you don't, at the end of the scenario, everybody wants to say, well, can I sell it and then buy my retirement home? Whew. Well, only if you rent it for a while, There is a way through that. And you know me, I'm a good risk taker, but I do not fool around with any of this. It's IRS, so you color within the lines.
They're not usually the group that you want to mess around with.
They're not coming to Thanksgiving dinner at my house.
When they can go get your bank account whenever they feel like it, that's not something you want to mess with.
But here's the thing, they don't if you follow these rules.
Right.
These are the rules, simple. The 4 safe harbors are, you put the property on the market as if you're going to just sell it. It looks like a sale and a purchase, other than these 4 harbors, safe harbors. You put it on the market, you come to terms with it, but you can never have constructive receipt of the money. So that's where we have to have an intermediary. They take your place in the contract to sell it, they take your place in the contract to buy it, and then they turn it over to you. So that's how IRS has got it set up. We do that by putting it under contract, bringing in asset preservation or somebody that's using for an intermediary. It has to be one I like because they do their job well, and that's really important.
Yeah.
Now, we've got that property going, it's sold, you go through all of the stuff you have there, and we're getting this great price. Now, at the end of the deal, when it closes, the money will go to the facilitator, and you don't want to wait for this, but you've got 45 days, not 46, not 45 and a half, to nominate the property you're going to buy. There are several different rules that come in there. I like the one where you nominate 3 properties and close on one of them, because that's a guarantee somewhat, underwriting, that you're not going to get stuck paying the tax bill. You'll have one of them you can close on. You can actually identify and put something under contract before the other one's sold, as long as the first one's closed before the second one. So we've got that 45-day period for identification. So now we don't get the money, and we've got 45 days to find the new property. Then you have a third one, which is 180 days to close. That's a long time. Does it include new bills? Not in my world.
No, not at all.
No, not right now, right? You know, because if they miss, we miss. That's the bottom line. So, the safe harbors are very doable. I will tell you, that's crunch time on the 45 days. If you don't start looking before that 45 days triggers, which is the closing of the first property, you're going to feel very crunched.
Especially in this market.
So am I.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's crazy to try to find something in 45 days and have that kind of pressure. I mean, normally, if you've got your property under contract, there's ways that you can maneuver. Like you could go get a hotel or an Airbnb or stay with family if the timing doesn't work right under closings, but you don't have any of that luxury messing with the IRS code.
You do not.
Like you have to be there. So one of the things you said, I have a question about, you said nominate 3 properties. At what point can you nominate it? Do you have to be under contract on it, or can you see 3 prospective properties that you're writing offers on and nominate them to be within your 45 days and then cross your fingers you get one?
You can do that. There's some play around with that, keeping in mind, first, the real test, the litmus test for IRS is, did the first one close before the second one closed? So you can do that. You can nominate properties. To your point, Brian, I don't encourage doing that in this market unless you have an accepted contract. So you have to have an accepted contract with a contingency in it of some sort, but we do have, you've got inspection, you've got that sort of thing. So you can nominate 3 properties before or after. You don't want to wait till the first one closes. What if you end up and there are no properties in your price range?
I mean, really, in this market, though, the order that you should be doing it is go shop for your property that you want to acquire first and be able to get that under contract. Then go ahead and list your property that you're going to be relinquishing, because that's easy. Like, you can sell a house in this market really easy.
Exactly.
And then it's a matter of timing the closings appropriately. And then there's also an option too, which from what I know about, it's a lot more complicated, but you can do a reverse order of acquiring the property, but there's some complications that come into play in terms of funding the acquisition of that next property.
There are, yes, and in my whole career, I've never done a reverse, and it's mainly I'm looking to get a boot up on the market. I want to take that money and use it for buying the next property. The problem with that is it costs at least $10,000 to do the setup on it, and it is more complicated. So can you do, I'm actually looking at that today because it's very challenging. You can't just have a lender that doesn't understand this, because you've got to be pre-approved and it's got to be solid. It can't be just a pre-qual. You can't have a realtor that doesn't understand this and says, well, here are 5, but they've got 3 offers on them. You've got to have someone who understands and takes very seriously those deadlines and those time frames. So you have to have a plan laid out up front, and it can very well work the way you're talking about. If push comes to shove, you're in a reverse exchange, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Not a good way to end that, but it can be done.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of money to do it typically too. And that's kind of the biggest holdback, I think, for most people is, to do it in reverse order, you're not receiving the proceeds of the sale of the property to use for the next purchase. So there's got to be money with the intermediary in order to purchase that house first. So that's where I think probably the biggest hurdle for most people, especially people who are not the ultra wealthy with gobs and gobs of cash to do these things. Like if we're talking about trying to build wealth and someone who's got one investment property and they're trying to turn that into the next one or the next 2, probably not loaded with cash to be able to go do that.
That's very true. To me, it looks much different than it did 20 years ago when I was starting this out. But you just call a lender like you and you just get that all in the loan, right?
Yeah, that's a little bit more challenging to lend to an intermediary because you're not lending to an individual at that point. So.
No, that's very true. I say that tongue in cheek because there are challenges for you as a lender.
Yeah.
Do I own it in an LLC? It has to. You're not going to make a loan to an LLC, I suppose.
Not with a conventional conforming kind of loan, but those can be done. There's other loans to do that. Right. But everything that whenever you step outside the box, as you know, everything gets a little bit more expensive.
Exactly.
So
that's how I feel about the reverse exchange right there. Yeah. But it is, well, look at my situation. If I got into difficulty because you've got to now navigate 2 different escrows, and if I get in difficulty, am I okay paying $10,000 to flip to a reverse instead of paying that kind of tax bill? Yes.
10,000 is a lot less than 160,000.
Yes,
I think in my math.
Let me get my calculator. No, it's very true. I just think if it's well planned out, you don't get to that point necessarily. There are reasons. You talked about the big boys and the big exchanges, and there are reasons to do that when an opportunity comes up and someone has to sell a property and you've got the money and the wherewithal behind you. By the way, you don't have to have all cash to do this. That's a nice thing too. You can use the proceeds of loans to accomplish the things we want to accomplish. So
let me ask you this then. One of the biggest things we hear all the time right now is this market. The market's crazy, can't find houses, all this kind of stuff. Is there going to be a bubble bursting? Is it a good time to buy? Obviously, with the 1031 exchange, that is a mechanism for people to be able to go out and get some advantages to be able to go acquire properties. But is it really the right time to do that? Like, can you kind of touch on where the market's at, and is it smart to be buying now, or are prices going to go down, or should people wait to do this stuff?
I don't believe in waiting. I've done this for such a long time, more than 2 decades, but I don't believe in waiting because you're trying to hit that magic spot where you've got that one day that's the highest, and then you find another day where it's the low, and the chances of bringing that all together and the 2.5% loan are just mind-bogglingly impossible.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in waiting. I don't believe there's a crash coming myself. I've gone through the 2004, 5, and 6, and it had very different dynamics to it. And I pay a lot of money each month to be part of the gurus to find out what they think. I think it's an excellent time to do this with the caveat that you do it smartly. I see a number of different kinds of people in the market. I see people that are out there that will pay anything, seemingly. I don't know where the top is anyway. for a house that they want. Does that make sense? That never makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Because I guess I'm more old school about it than that. But keep in mind, you buy and sell in the same market if you're going to stay in the same market. By the way, you don't have to. This can be done anywhere in the United States. And no, it can't be done outside of the United States. But it does include Alaska and Hawaii and all of this. This is an IRS code. So if you're going to sell high, you're going to have to figure out how to buy not quite as high to make it feel good. But keep in mind, you've got this big bucket of money that you're not paying to IRS that you can look at as value. And it's real value. So you're taking that bucket of money of deferred taxes and you're putting it into a new product. You made a point on my situation. I don't know if I can do the math in my head, but $165,000 away from $625. So we're at $460. I've got $460 after I pay the taxes. And by the way, I actually see people with another realtor out there selling one property. I'll ask them, what are they doing? Oh, they want to sell that and buy something else, another investment property? Yeah. And they have no idea.
They're not doing a 1031 exchange.
They have no idea what they're doing to their client.
Yeah.
So this is an actual real workaround for building value. It's been under attack for years, by the way. And it was most recently under attack again from this current administration. Whenever anybody says, we're not going to raise taxes, what they're going to do is they're going to go for the tax deferments and the tax advantages. And this is not for wealthy people. I mean, I started out at a different level than I am today. Let's put it that way. And it builds. You have to have the mind of investors. If you're a flipper, this is not for you. If you're a person that just wants to get in, get out, and take the money, this is not for you, because you have to get your mind around buying and selling in the same market, which I'm doing right here in the Valley. Actually, we went up to Payson, as you know,
right?
Because I want to try another piece to the portfolio. Well, that's nice. That's after a lot of years you can do that. But keep in mind, let's say you find a place where, I can tell you lots of places where you can buy a house for under $100 a square foot. You can take it anywhere. You've got to then have another partner. I need to have another partner there to say, what can you rent it for? Maybe your idea is you're going to move back closer to family in Texas or whatever. You can look at the big picture. You can sell here and buy there in anticipation of moving the family there, whether it's now or later. Can't move in them still. None of those things can change, but there are so many creative things you can do with this.
But can you also use, let's say you're have a long-term rental here and you decide you're going to do an exchange with it. Can you go use that to buy a short-term rental?
Yes.
Airbnb, VRBO, that kind of thing. Keeping
in mind, those are both held for business according to the IRS definition of that. And I have a couple of short-term rentals. In fact, the one I'm selling, long-term. The one I'm selling is a long-term. I bought it. It's not in an area that works at the peak for VRBO or Airbnb, so I don't want to try to turn it. Doesn't have a pool, doesn't have a spa. I'd have to furnish it. Those are decisions that have to come into the decision-making process. But that's what I did several years ago, was sell the long-terms on the West End and move them into Airbnbs, all of them. I'm pretty well vested in that. And it's working great right now. And I've seen, this is an aside, but I think it's an important piece. I've seen my Airbnb properties triple, not double, triple, in 5 years or less. The reason instead of doubling is that they're now, they're a proven product and people will buy an income stream. I think that's a mistake. I know that's a mistake, because we all know Airbnb is being looked at from every entity out there, from city, not the state yet, but from cities, from neighborhoods, because of the horror stories.
Yeah.
So what I do and what I do with all my clients, we have to have a plan A, B, and C. My plan A is to rent them Airbnb as long as that works. Plan B is to take the furniture out and rent them long term. So I'm analyzing everything before. Okay, there's another little thing. You make money in real estate when you buy, not when you sell. Absolutely a truism. So if they're bought right, you just have to pick which day you want to sell. And this is a great day to sell. So how do we turn that around and make it a great day to buy? There are lots of different options for you.
Well, I think that one of the things that I'm having a lot of conversations with people looking to buy investment properties right now. And one of the things that, I keep reminding people of, because they see interest rates are higher. Now, obviously in the big picture, they're not that high, but they're high compared to the last 2 years, which were anomalies. Yeah. And then they see home prices going up so much. And so that's the conversation I hear a lot of, is this the right time? Mm-hmm. And the thing that I've got to remind people of is that we're in a situation where we're going to have increasing prices of homes for the next several years. Mm-hmm. Based on the record low supply of homes, and there's still high demand for homes based not on low interest rates, but based on demographics. There's more people getting to that age where they want to buy their first home.
Yes.
And the only way for us to get out of this is for builders to build more homes. They're way behind schedule on that. There's some estimates between 2 to 4 million units that they would have to increase in order to keep up with the demand. And they're already behind by another couple million units. So there's a huge gap in what they can bring to market for supply. Right. So if you think about it, well, should I wait for a year for prices to go down? Well, first of all, they're probably not going down. But if you wait, you're losing out on that appreciation. Whether it's 5% appreciation or 15%, doesn't matter. That's still money that you're losing by waiting.
Is it better if you put it in the bank? I mean, have you looked at what that brings you?
Yeah.
So the whole world, this is not for the whole world. This is not for the crazy, let me roll the dice and I'm going to take a big hit up and then I'm going to go do whatever I do. It's not for the person that's not comfortable with some degree of calculated risk. And the word is calculated. You bring up a really, really good point there. I mean, the Cromford report, let's take that one, which is one of the ones I think of as a guru and I really follow. Last year, the prices went up 29% across the valley, across all markets. On a Cromford report with Tina in January, early January, everybody's saying, so these are all realtors. Is the market going to crash? Is it going to be another bubble? What do I tell my clients? How much is it going to appreciate? She said, we're not going to do 29%. It's going to be more like 7.5%. Sorry, Tina, I'm putting you out to the public, honey. We talked about this. 7.5% to 8%. But they're not in the business of making predictions. They look at hard data and what's driving it and what should you expect. 7.5%, we've already seen the first quarter more than that.
Yep.
So what does that mean? Well, I have some concerns about affordability in general. And each one of these properties that we take out of the ma and pa buying it is further reducing the inventory available for them. So it's an awareness. That's all it is. You mentioned building. I would challenge you, where? Where are they going to build them? I mean, Scottsdale's gentrified, North Phoenix is gentrified in that there are no more lots where you can build the kind of property you're going to want to buy if it's a 2, 3, 4 bedroom house with 2, 3, 4 baths to rent. There is nowhere actually in the whole valley that you can do that anymore. Because what has to happen is you've got to have infrastructure. The city has to have been on board with that for 5, 6 years. You have to have water, sewer, gas. It doesn't just, you can go, Maricopa proved that, right? When you go over to the town of Maricopa, you have this great cheap land, but there are no grocery stores, there are no schools, there are no anything. That was the 2004 and 5 years.
Right.
That's when they had the builders come in and literally build grocery stores, build schools, and they were in a different business. Well, I just don't see that. I feel so badly. We need them to build, but I don't see that being a competitor. And then there's the whole supply side thing. So I like to look at, well, for 1031, we have no choice. We have to look at the existing market, right? Because it's not safe to go to a builder. Even if they say they can have it done in 3 months, they're not on the hook for the tax bill if they miss. And I just don't do it. It's just, I'm very cautious about what I would advise. It's just like me making a decision. And then as you get into it, the good news is you're going to own the property, as you pointed out. Now, let's say you buy it and the interest rates are 4.5% or 5% for an investor loan. I don't know exactly what that would be. Oh, okay.
every day we talk about it, it's just a little bit higher, but that's okay. Go ahead. We're not quoting rates here.
No, we're not quoting rates. But let's say it's a lot more. First of all, I was in the business when it was 16.25%. So don't talk to me about these being high rates. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Does it surpass the amount of income I can make off this property? You do have to look at that.
Yeah.
And since rents went up 25% last year, I think we can say that's better than, what we're bumping on the interest rates. Well, let's say you don't like it. I don't like it. I like 2.5%, but you're not giving it to me. So, so these are realities. You just have to look at the realities of it. What are the realities of the situation? So you buy it and it's 5.5%. Well, I love the what ifs. What if it goes up more? Or what if it goes down? If it goes down, your property value is going to go like this. If it goes up more, you're going to have an untold number of renters because they won't be able to qualify to buy. There is no bad, I mean this with my heart, there's no bad time to buy if you do it smartly. You've got to know who's your target, who's going to rent this house, and how much are they going to pay me. Then you've got to know what's my interest rate, what's my tax and insurance bill, and how does that look? If after everything's said and done, the net figure is more than the interest rate, not to even mention appreciation, you've got yourself a good investment.
Right.
You've got something. Is it better than the annuity you can get? The answer is yes to that. I don't even need to ask,
Right.
Is it better than putting it in the bank? Oh my gosh. When you look at those things, this is the time, and it's historically true, I can prove that, where smart money always goes to real estate because we have that nasty thing called inflation. When inflation is alive and well, which we all know it is, smart money, meaning people with discretionary income, will take their money out of the stock market and put it in sticks and bricks. So I wish I had a crystal ball for the next 2-3 years. I mean, I'm putting
I have one. I just didn't bring it today.
Well, okay. We got it. Let's just end this and go see your crystal ball then.
So you want a house, but you keep getting beat out by all the cash buyers and institutional investors. So what do? Well, you need to call us at the Cardenas team at Finance of America Mortgage. We can turn you into a cash buyer even if you need a mortgage, so you can beat out the competition and get the home that you want. Visit us at www.thecardenasteam.com or call us at 480-331-4684 to schedule a free consultation. The Cardenas team, we treat you like family.
I just want to pick up on what you mentioned there about inflation. The idea that you're talking about is putting money into sticks and bricks. I mean, hard assets. That's what happens, and that's what people do: is put their money into things that do well during times of recession. And that's one of the things that we're just starting to hear now on the news is recession. And so that obviously has people a little spooked. They're dealing with the higher cost of gas and homes and food and everything. And so what is your feeling on when we are heading toward a recession, which we are, and we can talk about that, but what is the outlook for real estate when we go through a recessionary period?
It's a very good question. So why is smart money putting their money into sticks and bricks in this time? And it's because of the protections. It's not recession proof. I don't even like that term, but it does give you some advantages and some insulation from recession in that the stock market typically will respond negatively to inflation. So why would you have your money there? We see that we're going to be in this situation where a lot of people have real estate that they now, instead of saying to me and every other realtor, well, I don't want to sell this, where am I going to go? Because that's what you hear.
Right.
Outside of what we're discussing here, which is an exchange, we're going to hear them say, what can you get for me, and will that affect the market? Temporarily, I think it definitely will. But from a global, if you pull up to 10,000 feet and look at the whole picture, we just went through in 2008, 9, and 10, a time where the feds and the whole United States government understands real estate is what will pull us out of a dip. I don't know if it's going to be a recession. I don't know if it's going to be a dip. If you look at the line on real estate, it doesn't go like this. It always goes up, but there are these things around it. Key thing is you don't ever want to be in a case where you have to sell. Okay? If you've got good rent coming in, you've got a good plan. In recession, you're going to have a lot more people that aren't buying houses. They're going to be renters for you. We also here, we're really, really blessed. I don't even want to go outside of this market because of a few things that affect the big picture. We're number 1 or 2 place in the country, depending on what day it is to move. These people that are moving here are not like the 2004, 5, and 6. Those were speculators. These people are moving here. They're putting the kids in school. They're going to Albertsons and Safeway. They're taking advantage of all the services. And they're number 1 or 2 for jobs.
Yeah.
That's really, really solid stuff.
Yeah, that's the stuff that's really important for us locally here is if you look at population growth and you look at job opportunities, and those are 2 things that are really, really strong here in Arizona. And I think one of the things to understand about recessions and the inflation that, I try to let people know, and just about every consultation now that I'm having with a mortgage client involves talking about what the expectations are in the market. And because everybody has these same questions about inflation, about recession. And historically, if you look back at all the periods of recession, real estate has typically been stable, maybe a slight tick down, but then typically goes up during a recession. And then it recovers nicely after as well. So to your point about, smart money putting it in real estate, it's for that reason, because they know that during times of inflation it's going to head to a recession. Because if you think about it, as things get more expensive, people start pulling back from discretionary spending.
Exactly.
So as you start pulling back from spending money, then all those businesses that rely upon that discretionary spending start cutting jobs. Right now, we've already gotten back to the point of pre-pandemic unemployment rates. We're right there. And every time before a recession, what you see is a low point in unemployment. And then as soon as it starts to tick up, recession follows. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we haven't seen yet. We haven't seen unemployment tick up, but that's going to be a really good indicator as to when that recession is coming. Mm-hmm. And what ends up happening is what we're already starting to see with inflation is the Fed is talking about raising rates. So they've already done it once. They're talking about pretty rapid escalation in what they're going to do. And it's all designed to stop inflation. Well, when you go into a recession and you then are working to stop inflation, those things go hand in hand. You're raising rates to stop inflation, and what you're actually doing is slowing down the economy, which is what puts you into the recession. But what ends up happening as a result is interest rates go down during a recession. So the timing issue is you can't time it perfectly, and trying to time it perfectly is crazy.
It's really foolish.
But right now, you're looking at a prospect of real estate's going to keep going up, because the underlying thing outside of the recession and inflation is supply and demand of homes. Like, we still have jobs here. We still have people coming here.
We do.
And that's not going to change because we still have demographics telling us there's more people going to be wanting to buy homes. So real estate's going to be very strong, and you might as well jump on that train while it's still going up. And even if you don't get the interest rate that you like, because I know you want 2.5, but you're not getting it right now.
I went up from 2. Come on.
But that's going to be something that's not a permanent situation. Even if you're getting 5, 6, 7, whatever the number is, that's not going to be forever. When this recession hits and we start to see the slowdown, we start to see interest rates drop, you can refinance. And even if you have a property that you've exchanged, you can refinance your loan to get into a lower interest rate, right?
No, that's a very good point. And it's part of the planning. It's part of the planning. Let's say, oh my gosh, what if rents go down $100 a month? If you refinance, arguably, from today's rates to 2% or whatever it comes to, you're going to more than make that up because you own the property. You own the property. You mentioned something about real estate being a great hedge. It's going to continue or stay stable. Maybe it'll tick down. But here's the thing, Brian, it doesn't tick down if you don't sell that day.
Yeah.
This is the planning.
Yeah.
This is the planning, the plan A, B, and C. And I went through March 12th, 2 years ago. I had, 5 different properties, 5 or 6 properties. They were all Airbnb. And they pulled spring training. That's our biggest month here.
Oh, yeah.
For that. And then the out-of-state management company that I had, in their wisdom, decided to cancel all the reservations through May because they said they couldn't find cleaning people. They forgot who their client was. It's not the people that are renting. It's the people that own the property and are on the, all of them had mortgages. No, all but one, I think, had mortgages. So I was going to implement my plan B, which is take the furniture out and do it unfurnished. I went, no, my gut doesn't tell, my research and my gut don't tell me that that's a good idea. I think this will recover. So I went out and found something that I didn't even know existed. And I'm in the business 24/7. All of them within 30 days were rented furnished long-term. 6 months, a year, one of them's 2 years. And that one's coming up right now to be, so I've had the advantage of saving them like they are. Yes, I had a few things to do. Back in the market, the VRBO market is great. So this is why you have to plan for those little ticks that you're talking about. What you can't plan is, if it's a person that freaks out because the stock market goes down 500 points, probably not an investor type mentality because, it is going to go, things are going to go like this. Historically, we can look at that and we know that's true. But I'm not going to sell on that day. No one that I work with, I tell them you never want to have to sell. Well, what do I do? What if somebody passes away? Well, you can pull money out on a refinance. It's not a taxable event. You can do a lot of things other than, that's why I'm not paying the $160,000 in taxes. That just doesn't fit my portfolio. I've got other things to do with that. So that's where the planning, and it does, so many people call their CPA and ask about this. Can I do an exchange? And CPAs are wonderful. They have specialties just like you do and just like I do. They'll say if they don't know much about it, well, I don't know, it's pretty complicated and I'm not sure. And that's the end of it. What we agreed we're going to do here is let's talk more. Because if you do specialize in these things and you do understand how to help a person through this, there's some great opportunities out there.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things that just talking to professionals like you that comes across is that you have to have a good team of people.
Absolutely.
Like you have to surround yourself with the right people. And you may not know all of them, but if you find one, they will hopefully be able to connect you to the ones who are really knowledgeable. And it all comes down to educating because sometimes people react on emotion or fear or, a gut instinct. Right. And, it really has to come down to numbers and facts and educating yourself. And, that's why I appreciate you coming on here and kind of sharing all this stuff because I've learned a lot just in talking about this stuff with you.
Yes.
On our side of it, it's relatively straightforward on our side of it, but getting a better grasp of what the opportunities are for being able to invest in real estate. And that's like one of our big mantras is build wealth through real estate. Well, this is the tool that you use, the 1031 exchange, to build wealth.
I've been very blessed and successful all the years for selling and buying real estate with clients. But the wealth is all through owning it. It's all through owning it. Because typically we'll do, okay, I've got all this income coming in, so let's just do this and buy a different car and do that. And it's all spent on lifestyle.
Yeah.
But to put some money in a bucket, and that's the bucket that you're building wealth on. So, and it also is building for me, the income off of this one day will allow me to retire, whether I actually do that or not. My husband says, I hope you don't. She'll just be crazy.
Yeah, you might get a little bored, I think.
I would get bored. I would definitely get bored. So you have to have a team. You have to have a team. And even though I'm sitting here talking to you about, and I've done, I don't know, between myself and clients, 50, 70 of these That's a lot,
Yeah,
actually, when you buy and sell. I'm not going to go out and do that bear of other advice. I can tell you the working dynamics of a 1031. I can get people to the team members that we have that can tell them the actual nuts and bolts. Everybody's situation is different, okay? Like you talked about, how do we get that first one? Once you get the first one and you get to the second or third one, you'll be going, I'm never paying tax on real estate again. Sorry, but that's not true. You will one day, unless you set it up with an inheritance kind of a thing. That's down the road for all of us, right?
Yeah, eventually we'll all get there.
Yes, it's a race I don't want to win.
I want to be the last to finish.
Last one to finish, yeah.
Well, again, I appreciate you coming on and joining us and educating us. That's the big thing that we try to do here. And I look forward to you guys joining us next time.
If you'd like to reach out to today's guest, Peggy Gascon, you can reach her at 602-619-5532 or by email at peggy@peggygascon.com. That's PEGGYGASCON.com. Thanks for joining us, and please remember to subscribe, like, share, all that cool stuff to help us grow, and come back tomorrow to listen to our next episode. Until then, go out and live life uncensored.
Thanks for listening to the Uncensored Real Estate Podcast. Don't forget to help us out and subscribe. Follow and give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast platform. And check us out on YouTube for the full video podcast. If you want more information on any of the topics discussed on today's episode, email us at uncensoredrealestatepodcast@gmail.com or give the Cardenas Mortgage Team a call at 480-331-4684.